What's up, guys? Welcome to Fitter Food Radio. This is episode 208. And of course, it's me, Matt Whitmore,
And
and
me.
Kerith Marsden.
We've got Hamish down here, but you can't see him, but he's
Yeah,
snuggling in my lap.
she's very, very clingy at the moment.
Since I've been
Um,
away for 2 days,
that's true.
he's got
That's true.
separation anxiety now. 2 days.
Bless him.
2 days stuck
Bless.
with you, and he's like, "Where's the one that feeds me?
Yeah, you are a feeder. I
Where's the one who's always got chicken?"
see why you're the favourite. But state of my barnet, Kerris. It is getting absolutely out of hand. I shared on my Instagram stories the other day. I said, like, I was thinking of trying to grow my hair until my birthday, like, and just see how it goes. But I don't know how people do it. It's just such a pain in the ass having so much hair on your head.
If there's one look I've not seen on you, and I'm not sure how it would go down, it would be long hair.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll either look like, I don't know,
Thor.
like yeah, Thor or the bearded lady. And it just feels like it's a lot of effort to find out. I worry I'll let it grow and then I'll be like, "Oh, okay, I'm just chopping it off now." So therefore,
All of that was a waste of time. No, what you
yeah,
should do is you donate it, don't you, to wig making
that's
for
true.
wigs. Yeah,
In
you should
fact,
do that.
actually, my barber does say I have really good hair,
Yeah, you do.
and I
And you don't
think
wash it either.
no, I think that's because yeah, I don't. I'm part of the no poo brigade. That's shampoo, you filthy monkeys. Um, because I read about
You're
it.
definitely part of the
Uh,
poo
oh
brigade.
yeah, good and proper. I'm the president.
The master, gold medalist.
No, but I watched a video a couple of years ago about this guy saying that like when you wash your hair, every time you shampoo your hair, you're basically washing out all the kind of natural oils and stuff that keep your hair healthy.
Every woman has known this since being at school when you first start washing your hair as a teenager because it's greasy. No woman that I know has ever really ridden out the greasy phase.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I get it because you do have to ride through it
You have to go to the mountains and live in a hut for a
for a
month
month
because
to
your hair is just
then come
stuck to your
back
forehead.
looking all glam.
It's funny though how certain things really like you're conscious of, and one of mine would be the greasy hair. I think because it tortured me in my teens when I first hit puberty, and I was like, "What is this?" Like I now have to wash my hair like every other
Every
day,
day.
and I became the master of washing my fringe because I had like really oily skin, oily hair. I hated it all, so I had to like that's why even now I'm lazy. I just wash my fringe. Like I only wash my hair like once a week, so it's quite good really when I think about the environment.
Yeah, and like
Totally off topic, by the way,
no, but it's yeah, it kind of is.
but
But
no, I was about to lead in to say like my entire hygiene routine, like just I just use soap on my skin. I use a very light moisturizer, but not a lot. And I was talking to somebody about it when you see on Instagram all these really expensive creams and serums and anti-aging stuff, and it's like actually this is kind of relevant. I went on a hen do this weekend, and two people very kindly were like, "How are you 45?" And they didn't leave my age. And it was really
yeah,
nice because I don't use any anti-aging serums and creams, but obviously I've usually eaten really well and
yeah,
been active, drink water, slept as much as I possibly can, other than, get your 8 hours,
mm,
whatever's right for you. My one downfall would be sun exposure. I love the sun. So
yeah,
that's probably the most aging thing I do. I guess smoking and drinking, I've never smoked, only ever drank in moderation. So but it does impact you. I met someone yesterday who was my age, and I was like, God, smoker, drinker. Do you know what I mean? You could
yeah.
sun junkie. I was like, gosh, you probably do look about 20 years older than your actual age because of all of that. So, but I love that we think we can put a serum on and it'll undo
Oh yeah.
30 years of that stuff.
Placebo. No, it's true though, right? Like it's yeah. Like I mean,
But skin changes when this has actually been seen in when you start to do like meditation stuff and actually like even bring down like your nervous system response because you change your physiology and your chemical like and that's in the science. You see skin changes and everyone knows your skin's bad when you're stressed. Everyone says that. You get your
yeah.
inflammation's up.
But it is often because I notice as well, like obviously like when my diet's I mean my diet's pretty good most of the time. I go through phases of it being less good, should I say.
Mm.
And I can definitely see it in my skin, like spots will will creep in, and but also body odor as well. Like I'm pretty sure I've shared this before. So I probably shower twice a week, maybe three times a week. And that's even after I've trained as well. I may not shower. I'll just kind of like wipe my face or something like that, like with a flannel or something. But it was always a bit of a running joke when I was working at the gym back in the UK, because it was like people would see me like train and then just change clothes. But they'd be like, "But you never stink. Like, how do you not smell?" Like, because I'm a sweater as well. I sweat a lot, and I've got a feeling I've told this story before, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. Story of my life. Um, but I genuinely think it's down to like, like when you eat better and there's less kind of crap in you, if you will, there's kind of less crap to come out.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I just naturally like I again, it just ties in with, like, I've read a lot on, like, not always washing, the kind of skin.
well, you've got your microbiome
Yeah,
there for a
exactly.
start, but I also think this can go the other way. I would say in that definitely when I was kind of
And you do stink.
no, what I mean is like when I was in like nutritional therapy circles, it was like every single thing you put on your skin has to be 100% natural. All your products, deodorant, makeup, everything 100%
Mm.
natural. Anything that comes into contact with your body, 100% natural. And then you've got to be like detoxing and trying to avoid every single contaminant in the world. And that is also nuts. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
doesn't do anyone any good and
I
just creates a
mean,
lot of stress in people's lives. And then suddenly your skin's flaring and you're like, hmm.
I genuinely stand by it. Like, I think the less you can put on your skin, the better.
Yeah, but it's almost
Like natural or not.
for just try to do it easily within your life, like you just said. So, like you said, if you've got that foundation in place with your diet, your hydration, and then you shouldn't need lots of makeup and serums. And the skin is kind of the reflection. It's an organ
Mm.
essentially, so it's a reflection of that what's going on inside. But what's going on inside is yes, we want it to be resourced and have the right nutrient status. But also, if what's going on inside is utter chaos emotionally, then that's going to also reflect in the skin. Like
Yeah.
so I think it's like you want that integrated approach of like, yep, I can definitely use some better products here and there, or use less products, as you said, let my skin breathe and, remove what toxins are easy from my environment that could be harmful. Um, and then the rest is like, work on your nervous system regulation. And recently, we've been trying to do a lot of coaching with clients on what is stress to you,
Mm.
and look at the fact that we've invented it all. And like and the stories behind it. And in fact, what we wanted to talk about today was because we sit with clients all week long and we hear the language that they use to talk about themselves and to talk about their situations. And it's really interesting when you're just sat there observing the whole thing and thinking, I wonder what your kind of nervous system and brain, well, you kind of know what it's receiving in terms of the way that you're describing yourself in this situation. Because one of the main things that we do is we talk about a situation like there's no hope
Mm.
and there's no way out,
Is,
and that
is this is this you segueing over to our main
you
topic?
weren't listening
No, I
because
was, but it's like I was like, oh, we're done on the skin thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because what I was going to say, our main topic that we want to talk about is like the labels and language that we use to describe ourselves and our situations and
Yeah.
our approach to health. Because people jump on calls with us and they're like, "Oh, I love your books and I've followed you for years, but I've got no motivation, or I've just like in a cycle of this, and I can't do it on my own. I need more discipline, and
Mm.
that's how I want to work with you guys." And what we are really helping people to see is everybody has willpower and discipline. This isn't the problem, especially with things like food and exercise and health generally. It's, as we've said on previous podcasts, they've become a tool to like a stick to beat ourselves,
Mm.
or a focus that we can fail at, or we can start and stop and start and stop and make it like the main show. But in the background, I'll often say to my clients, "What do you mean you've got no willpower and discipline? Like you show up at work, you show up as a parent, you're showing up for, family, you're caring for your elderly mom in a home. Like it's insane how hard they're working at life." And then they go, "I've got no motivation." And it's like, no, you've got nothing left because you're not on the agenda. Is usually what we see, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, like, because we've literally just kind of like closed the doors on our 12-month transformation plan. And like we're really looking forward to working with these people over the next 12 months because it's more than it's well, so much more than a fat loss plan. Like, don't get me wrong, like everyone that's on board has a fat loss goal 100%, and that's absolutely fine. However, we're not just working with them for a year to make sure that they're in a calorie deficit for 12 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's digging a bit deeper and getting an understanding around this kind of like daily dialogue and narrative that goes on in their mind. The things that influence their day-to-day decision making around work, family commitments, children, social life, and time for themselves, which is often what's last on the list. It's actual
Yeah.
like, quality time for yourself that people protect. And like Kerry said, like something that we pick up on people quite early on is the language that they use, the story that they keep telling over and over again.
Yeah.
As
It's a fake identity. I say it's a fake
yeah.
ID, fake
Mm,
identity that you have created. One thing I think is really powerful to know is like it's a part of our mind that does this. It's like it's kind of tied into our ego, which is like the mask that we wear in society that we put on. And what one thing about that element of your mind is it likes to keep you exactly where you are because it's like the struggle is safer than the struggle you don't.
mm,
And our system
yeah.
and our brain is always fighting for safety.
Better the devil you know.
Yeah. And because it always wants that safety and doesn't want the kind of risk of criticism. I think when this comes to things like body image and weight loss and fitness, it gets really messy because you're kind of going into social circles, situations, social connections, relationships with personal trainers, people in your group classes, your weight loss groups, maybe. And you're entering into it can feel like you'll instantly start to compare yourself, don't you? But you instantly start to maybe be successful at something, and that can become part of the identity. But then underlying it, if you haven't addressed, like you said, deeper issues of root causes of, why you gained weight or why you were reluctant to exercise, because
Mm,
one thing that none of us do is trust that our body wants health and that it will give us energy to move, it will want to move, and it will give us an appetite regulation to stop eating because in caveman times we couldn't have been overweight, it would have made us vulnerable. So what's happened, what's overriding our natural, kind of weight regulation thermostat mechanism? And I think there's a few factors like obviously hyperpalatable foods, jobs are now more sedentary, like some obvious stuff.
mm,
But why in some people is there still that kind of like, yeah, but I'm going to keep moving, and then other people it's not. And I think this all comes down to kind of your kind of reactions to a lot of emotional stuff and experiences that are happening. But
yeah.
what I don't think helps is then when you struggle, someone labels you um so a lot of my clients with their weight have gone and visited therapists who've said, oh, you're a highly sensitive person, you're an empath, you suffer from anxiety, you've got ADD, ADHD. So then they're taking this label and they're like, I will probably never succeed because my ADHD causes me this problem and then I can't do this. I can't ever
Mm,
meditate. I can't go to a yoga class. Um, it drives up my need for caffeine or whatever, or alcohol to calm down my mind and stuff. So the labels aren't helping. And I question some of the labels anyway, because it seems everybody's got everything nowadays. Do you know what I mean? But I do think you have a subset of people who are, we could say, highly sensitive or have highly sensitive nervous systems who've gone through lots of difficult situations and now really struggle, in a work capacity, in a family capacity, to kind of voice their um, true emotions,
mm,
express their needs, say when they're angry, say when they want something, when they're not happy about something, say when they're scared about something. And so they just kind of walk around as a ball of anxiety.
mm,
And then it becomes like the brain suggests, let's just focus on the weight loss side of things and keep fucking that up over and over again so that you can get lost in all of that and never actually make progress. And I met up with a friend recently that I've not seen for years, and she was telling me about her weight struggle. And she said, like, I'm not lazy, don't you? And I was like, I've just listened to you talk about your incredible career. You're renovating a 5-bedroom house. She never
mm,
sits still. And I said, and she's like doing a lot of work emotionally. And she said, like, I know this isn't emotional and it's all linked to things that happened to me as a child and da da da. And it was nice to see that wisdom, but sad that she felt she had to tell me that
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, I've got hundreds and hundreds of clients that I work with like you, and none of them are lazy or
Yeah.
greedy but these are the stories that you'll tell yourself.
Yeah, and it's like we've always said, it's like, it's getting people to not kind of create too much or any attachment to this, like you said earlier, like almost like a false identity, and giving yourself that blanket label of I'm lazy. I'm not motivated enough. I don't have enough discipline. It's like, no, you do, because you're showcasing it in many other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like the things aren't quite clicking together in this part of your life
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we need to figure that bit out as to why that is. But people use those blanket statements, I'm lazy, I'm a failure. And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
like, no,
She
no,
actually said something that was really interesting. She said that she's almost like um she's like an emotional inner child combined with a high functioning adult. And that's kind of where the whole thing like splits because if you're an emotional inner child, like she sort of said, like my inner child never had her needs met, so I have this constant need to comfort eat. Do you see what
mm,
I mean? And that was really like, and I said, yeah, yeah, I completely get that. Or to hide away from situations where I'll be judged. So going to a gym or trying to exercise. And she has a fear of like, kind of feeling how unfit she's going to be. Or so if she gets an inkling of that, she goes straight into health anxiety with it, which again, a lot of my clients say the same thing. Like one bout of breathlessness and they're like, oh my God, like I am fast tracking to a heart attack or something, especially if you've had things like COVID and other health issues that are like lingering. So I think the amount of health information online isn't helping because then we can Google stuff and continue this label and this story. Do you see what I mean? Like I
yeah,
am vulnerable to having this. I've experienced this quite a lot. And then I think, but the high functioning adult is really interesting because I think our second coping mechanism is let's go and just do a project or work really hard or
yeah,
fix somebody else rather than go back to that inner child and some people have inner child, like obviously there's inner child therapy. You can kind of go and reassure your inner child that
mm,
you're okay, you're fine, you almost meet your needs as an adult to your child self that's still acting out in some way in your day to
yeah,
day. And I think there's like just it's helpful with all of it in terms of learning some insights, but at the end of the day, we still have to get that foundation in place. Even as you're doing that deep work, me and you have said there still has to be a resourced body with good food, sleep, water, some kind of relaxation, stillness, and then you've got
mm,
that kind of platform. And physical activity can be anything from just some walking to, strength training or whatever. But I think you have to get the body fueled to do that deeper work. But like you've said, that the first bit I think is like everyone should just alleviate themselves from this bloody cycle of guilt and shame because it's more destructive than half the things that we're maybe worried about or doing. It's that story is bigger, do you know?
mm,
And it really does affect your self-esteem and emotions, and it's harder then to make choices which are aligned with your values and your health because you feel like utter crap, but then you're, as I said, picking up the stick and beating yourself even further,
yeah,
like down, 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 down. Of course, you're going to want to comfort eat. Of course, you're going to want to escape that feeling.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? How, like I was chatting to a client the other day about how all of us can justify why we do or don't do something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
We can find a good enough reason to justify why we skipped to the gym again, why we just had a takeaway. And I think again that's you're just reinforcing it like over and over again. And we had a chat about this actually on our group call last week with our Strong Humans Project crew. Um, like if you're like, you're with your friends and you're kind of saying, oh, it's been really hard to stick to um my training plan and my nutrition recently, just using that as an example, because oh, like the kid isn't sleeping very well, so we're up late, or work's kicked off and I'm working this many hours, and all those people are like, yeah, of course, absolutely, that makes perfect sense as to why you're not doing this. So again, it kind of just reinforces it. Whereas I'm a big fan of, like, you just need that one person to kind of go, yeah, but you could still do something. That it shouldn't go completely out the window.
Right,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and it's almost like it's kind of like a what's the expression? Like it's a loving challenge. So it's someone like they're challenging you, but not because they're trying to wind you up or annoy you,
Yeah, yeah.
or be mean. It's because they care and they're going, well, no, no, like it's really important that you still look after yourself, or you create, you enforce a boundary to make sure that you still get outside and get some steps in. You still eat as well as you possibly can. Be
This way the language comes in really importantly, because if you were to say
yeah,
that in a more dogmatic way, someone would react and go, I've been judged. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Repeat the behavior like comfort eat and sit there
mm,
going, oh, that's right. And I hate myself that I'm doing, do you see what I mean? It's almost
yeah,
like the reinforcement comes from you. And
yeah,
it's why, and really interestingly, this is something else that you probably noticed with clients is they're always trying to control other people in a way. And that's what we were saying today. Everybody that's fighting to control situations and other people is usually in a fruitless struggle. There's like
mm,
the constructive things we can do, ways that we can help. When we seek to control, it all goes pear-shaped, doesn't it?
mm,
Because we're not the ones that decide in half of these situations. And so we just end up pushing and pushing and pushing and causing conflict. So that's definitely in around loved ones, but work situations, if it's something unjust and unfair, of course, like present your case, fight your corner to an extent. But when your health is suffering and you're coming home and you're raging about it and then eating and drinking alcohol, like that's, who's being punished in that situation?
yeah. And also as well, it's like, don't get me wrong, like I know, like I've used work as an example, I've used like children, family as an example, but I also think that, everyone goes through phases as well, like we do with work. We go through phases where we're busier than others and we're working more hours and we're working later than normal, and it can disrupt our sleep a little bit.
Yeah,
And maybe we might be like grazing at food because we want a little bit of comfort whilst we're like working on a project that we're not particularly like, like loving every minute of type thing. Like we get it, like it happens. But the reason why, like, you need someone in your corner to go, no, no, no. Like, I'm not going to let you keep repeating this story and keep justifying what you're doing if there's no sign of you doing anything about it.
yeah,
You see what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Because, for example, like a lot of people we work with, you know, very busy jobs, long hours. Like one of my clients recently, he's got clients in the States as well as like parts of Asia, and he's on their clock. So sometimes his hours are nuts
yeah, yeah,
because he's on their time zone. It's not all the time, but it happens. And it can be disruptive naturally, but the reality is he's not going to change jobs anytime soon, so his circumstance isn't going to change anytime soon. So therefore it's like, okay, there's this constant in your life that at the moment you've made very clear you're not going to do anything about because it just is. So we need a plan for it. We can't keep going, oh, I'm not doing this because my job,
yeah, yeah,
oh, I'm not doing this because my client's in Asia, and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, yeah, but then change jobs then. If that's the
yeah,
main
yeah,
reason why all this is happening, then you need a different career because it's not serving you at all.
yeah.
I know that's a very simple way of looking at it, but
Yeah. I say I do actually say this to my dad when he starts having these rants about government politics.
Mm.
I'm like, you'll be the richest man in the graveyard because he's still trying to like rage about things. But I'm like, realistically, you're okay now.
yeah,
And yeah, and I know he'd like to leave a greater legacy maybe for me and my brothers, like which is really
yeah,
interesting. But his neighbor who was like 98 was doing the same thing
yeah,
and has, like an incredible amount of wealth now, but was raging about the pensions in the UK and the government. I was like, I understand the unfairness of it, but like what's the point anymore?
mm,
Do you know what I mean? Like who's suffering the most when you do this
yeah,
stuff, when you could be watching the birds sing? And I know some people will be rolling their eyes at that, but I don't really think that we have a choice because the world is changing so fast, so quickly, with so much going on. If we don't start to learn some degree of neutrality and letting go of like that fear of the
mm.
future and thinking that the future is going to trash us, we are, and you have, meditation and mindset tools are the
How,
best
how,
way to do
how are
that.
you linking that to what I was saying?
Because he was saying about when people argue, we get this a lot about, I can't leave my job, I can't leave my job, but it's actually destroying their health in
Yeah,
every sense. And the workload's unrealistic. There's bullying, there's toxic bosses, there's colleagues gaslighting you, complaining, like I've seen
yeah,
it all in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, it's really awful. I'm not disagreeing with that.
And don't get me wrong, like, I know that exists,
Mm.
but like in like in this circumstance where it's like it isn't that, but it is more that it's just like it's the hours and the
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
the whatnot, like like
It's
if
all a huge stress on the body though, isn't it?
no, no,
Physically,
it
yeah,
is, but what I'm saying is like when you've got something to point the finger at all the time, it's almost like your get out of jail card because it's like, well, I can justify not doing that because look at my job, look
yeah,
at the hours I
yeah, yeah,
work,
yeah,
look at the, you know, the time zones that I'm working on. Like, is it any wonder that I'm
yeah,
not really exercising
yeah, yeah.
or taking that time to plan and prep my food? And again, it takes that one person to go like to be a pattern interrupt for you and go, no, I'm not buying it. I don't think so. You're basically saying all the while you have that job, you're fucked. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the narrative you keep repeating. But there are people, there's loads of people that work long hours, stressful jobs, etc. They're not all doomed. You know, it's having someone though to kind of almost call you out on it a little
But
bit.
in a non-judgmental way, because I think
Completely,
when you're in that
completely.
situation, you're so fearful of criticism
Yeah.
and you can't take it and the judgment, you can't take it. And this is what makes everyone hide away because they're like, I can't take it. I'm doing that much self-criticism.
Mm.
I can't take it from someone else. And half the people I work with are already inventing it in their heads anyway, what people think of them. So they're already having a barrage of judgment, even though that most of it's, fictional. So I think it is a really difficult situation. And I think we've said that the first I did a webinar this last week on comfort eating, and I said the first phase for me, and I have like a three-step process that I work through with clients. The first phase is a destimulation and kind of awareness phase because and destimulation is so many people have said to me that what is bonkers is in all this busyness and difficult experiences that they're going through, when they do get a minute, they fire up their phones and scroll. And that could be the worst thing for your mental health at that point in time,
Yeah.
because it'll likely be a doom scroll. And so what I often say is like destimulation is about we've got to start scaling back the amount of stuff we're doing, the amount of stimulation in our life, the TVs, the phones, the music, the, whatever it might be, and stepping back and developing some kind of awareness skills of like, okay, just separate you from your thoughts and just watch the thoughts for now, because we can't change the story if we're in the story. We're like literally, this is where I love the Truman Show as an example of this. Like, you have to become the watcher of the Truman Show. Do you see what I mean? Rather
Yeah.
than Jim Carrey himself in the Truman Show. And it's almost like do a little bit of that and, watch the worker bee just buzzing around and saying yes when they want to say no. And so you can start to, first of all, see the situation. But that destimulation is also going to be helpful for, sleep and your kind of level of anxiety that you experience that day. You'll start eating hopefully a little bit slower because obviously most of us are kind of shoveling in food like this because there's just no time and we're picking
Mm.
at food, we're craving stuff, we're going back for more food because we're like, oh, I still feel I need something, I feel uncomfortable, I don't
Mm.
like this. So again, in that phase, if we start adding this destimulation and these pauses in as well, so after dinner, like it's fine to have a craving, but sit with it. Like, what is it like? If you didn't have the food, what does it feel like?
Yeah.
And that's a question that no one's asking themselves. It's a real nice, everyone always goes, oh, what do you crave? Oh, you crave chocolate. It's probably like it's a dopamine thing, it's a
Mm.
lift. And everyone knows that there's not one human being I don't know that doesn't know why they comfort eat.
Yeah.
But a more helpful question is if you didn't have the chocolate for 60 seconds, try the 60 seconds first. What is it that you feel?
Mm.
And is there an emotion down there? And then once you can start some of these practices and start diving in and sitting in that emotion, then this is where we start to be able to basically develop emotional competency. And with that will come more intuitive eating, more essentially we're using the executive part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, where we're like, although part of me wants some chocolate right now, I can have two squares and that is enough. Going back to your tribesmen in South Africa,
Yeah.
I only ever want enough
Just
because they're
enough.
so well regulated, aren't they? If you think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
their needs are met, they've got their tribe, they've got their village, they've got their sunshine, their movement, they're well regulated people. And if we start to focus on this ourselves, looking at our nervous system, looking at meeting our basic needs when it comes to nutrition, sleep, relaxation, time out, our needs, like this is what I'm saying. Most people that struggle are not on the agenda of the day.
Mm.
And it's addictive. And it's really addictive if you also had a lot of childhood trauma and didn't get your needs met in formative years. Your safety comes from fixing others. So again, you don't need to feel guilt about this overworking, this people pleasing, whatever it is that you're doing, the good part of you. You have to just understand it, and then
Mm.
you can stop letting it lead the 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 to-do list, because it's doing that out of it's not a weak thing. This is the other thing some people say to me, oh, it makes me feel look really weak if I'm just people pleasing all the time, or like, looking for validation. It's none of that. It's like it's deep within you. It's trained in you that you've got to try and secure your place in a social connection. That's what our nervous system needs. It needs to, like Hamish, he gets separation anxiety because he needs his pack. He knows on his own he's vulnerable. So he
Yeah.
likes the pack to be together, and he guards the pack. And it's like our nervous system does the same, and that's as a kid, we read our parents like fiercely. We looked in their eyes, we looked at you knew if your mum was in a bad mood, right? I could tell if my
Yeah.
mum was in a bad mood from behind. Like I could tell because she would never brush her hair for a start.
Yeah.
So, but like we read our parents to know, to kind of decide our own safety. We, so and like look at them because they're our guardians. So
Yeah.
if any of that went offline at some key points in your life, then you start to get really hyper vigilant yourself, because you're like, oh God, it's down to me because they're not present.
Yeah.
And that could be that not present looks many, many different ways. Like even if you think about your mum having a new boyfriend, you were saying when you as a kid, and then she suddenly disappeared for periods of time, your nervous system will have gone, oh, mum's gone off with a new partner. Am I safe? Like you would have asked yourself, even if it was the loveliest boyfriend in the world,
Yeah.
it would have been a disrupt for you. And then as an adult, you become really good at going, I'll make sure everybody's safe. Do
Yeah.
you see what I mean? Because that's kind of now how you get your fix or your needs met.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really helpful for people to start understanding this, but we do need the time out in the day. And that's the hardest thing for most people to do, because like I said, I will see WhatsApp messages come in, and it's like, I was thinking about this the other day because we've now moved country. So you went, and the friend that I met recently is from school. So we were best mates at around 11. And she was going, you've now got uni mates, school mates, your first job, your second job, like when you lived here, she's lived in 3 or 4 different places. Your mates when you lived in Liverpool, your mates when you lived in Manchester.
Yeah.
Even if you just keep one, the list grows.
Yeah.
And then she said, then you start dropping balls and forgetting people's birthdays and letting people down. And then you visit in one country and you don't get to see everybody, and then they get offended. And then she's, we're just talking about how it's built and built, and WhatsApp's getting bigger and bigger. And then you
Yeah.
move countries now, like we've made some great friends here, but there's another stack of WhatsApp messages coming in. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like we want to be social and we want to keep up. And
You,
I
you
just,
you need to do what I do.
what?
I've switched off all notifications on my phone.
Last night I was actually I've done a few things where I've actually been spontaneous recently and loved it, because I'm normally the one that's working really hard, doing all this stuff, routine. But recently, like I said, a friend landed and she was like, I'm in Portugal, do you want to hook up? I was like, oh my God, yeah. And a few friends have done this and said, oh, we're visiting, do you want to hook up? And I've been like, yes, I do. Like normally I'd say, no, I've got too much to do, but I've been kind of, no, I'm coming, I'll see you. But it meant that I kind of landed home last night at 10 o'clock and then picked up my phone, and there was loads of different messages for different
Yeah.
things. And I started answering them, and you came in and went, get off that thing now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yes. So I'm literally autopilot, trance,
Yeah.
like just do it. And so it is really helpful to actually start to factor into your day, despite having, like, as I said, there's some spontaneity is really good, but on your most of your days, just this time away from everything, whether you just
Mm.
go and lie in your bedroom, what's going around your head, what sensations are you feeling physically? Is there kind of memories, experiences coming up? Like sit with them, be with them. If there is a discomfort about the future, if there's like a constant fear thought that goes around your head,
Fear,
then
fear thought.
fear
Fear,
thought,
fear thought.
then go and sit with it and like ride it out and sit and go, well, because in a way you don't control it. So if you're scared of dying, for example, if you've got a health condition, go and sit with that thought. It's going to be the scariest thing you do,
Mm.
but not feeling it and trying to avoid it with excessive human doing, or alcohol or eating, isn't going to really end that well either. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like, why not basically, turn towards the fear, walk into it and sit with it and be with it. And there's a good chance your brain will turn off half the alarms because it's like, oh, that's not doing anything about this anymore.
Well, I think I've used this example before, and I am the king of repetition. Oh no, we shouldn't call it repetition. We should call it
Reinforcement.
reinforcement,
Yeah.
reiteration. Um,
You're labeling yourself.
yeah, but that's true. Um, and like there's a saying in like the kind of the training world, it's like, your progress is only as good as your recovery allows.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, obviously you need the stimulus of training to actually get stronger, build muscle, get fitter, etc. But if you're training, and there's not enough recovery there, your body's just going to go, nah, you're not going to get any stronger. You're not going to build any more muscle. If anything, you're going to get injured and you're not going to be able to train. And then you'll be really pissed. And it's the same with like you said about like, adding pauses to your day. Like we've programmed ourselves to just always be like give to other people, work,
Yeah.
make more money, do more things, hustle, grind, like
Yeah.
more.
Secure future.
Yeah, and it's like it's in a way it's almost like I was talking to someone to this about the other day. It's almost like a form of scaremongering.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these are all the things you need to do to be
Yeah.
successful. This is the checklist you have to tick off in order to be uh, a man that's looking after his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're almost a bit like, oh shit, but I'm really like because I'm already pretty stretched, but okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I care for my family and I want, and it's like, but if you add pauses, you're more likely to do a lot of these things. I mean, forget those lists anyway that people put out there. Like I think we all put a bit too much pressure on ourselves, and social media doesn't help with that. But I've the more I've added pauses to my day, the more efficient I am, the more productive I am, the less stressful it feels. I still have days when I'm an absolute nutter.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all this stuff needs doing. But luckily it doesn't happen that often. And I've got better now at like often I'll leave my phone here and I'll go for a walk. I don't care about the steps. I know that I've gone for a walk. I don't need a phone app to tell me that. And I get a lot of my clients to do it. I'm like, like you don't need to take your phone with you. Just have 10 minutes to yourself and just be outside. And don't even have the device there to
Yeah.
look at.
So it's like no podcast, no
Yeah,
music.
like nothing. Just bloody
Would you, do
just
you know what's
disconnect.
really good as well on walks is like when I use walks now to do almost like they're like kind of meditations, but I don't mean guided meditation, I don't mean breath work. I mean same thing. So as you're walking, your brain starts, loads of things come in, stories, thoughts, you're working still maybe. And then I literally kind of come into the moment and I'll start to observe nature, but also don't label it. So true kind of deep meditation is just awareness wordlessly. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing ever. And you literally look and you just see the space in front of you and stop labeling everything blue, green, nice, spring, flower, da, 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 because that's all talking.
That
And
sounds stressful
it's
though.
really no, but it's really amazing because even just for a start, awareness. So my first thing is I go awareness. Oh, this is beautiful amount, nature, da da da. But then I take it down another level and it's like just be, just be, and just let your senses feed back with absolute neutrality. But it's so helpful because when you do come into the chattery dialogue again, you start to see that most of it's rubbish. And that's been really like transformational for me in the last 2 months. I've really watched the whole thing and gone, oh my God, I've literally been telling myself this, and this
Mm.
for decades. And I've literally been pushing myself to do this, and this daily, like obsessive compulsively. Like if I don't do it, I'm not a healthy person or I'm not going to survive, because even around health, we start to get these, like processes in place that we believe if they fall out, exercise, got to do it 4 times a week, got to have my heart rate here, got to run this far. And
Mm.
the why behind exercise is like I've really sat with it in the last couple of weeks and talked to a lot of clients about it actually and said, Like for me, I started running as a teenager purely because first I wanted to lose weight, but then the endorphins for my mood were just transformational. Then I got confidence, self-esteem back, but then it became a process addiction. Like if I didn't run, and I've
Yeah.
run far too much through really difficult circumstances rather than actually processing emotions. I've run through grief, I've run
Mm.
through business stress. So I've added physical stress to emotional stress.
Mm.
And eventually injuries and exhaustion like really KO'd me and my stomach. And that's when I was like, okay, now's basically the time I'm going to have to start dealing with emotional stuff and difficult experiences more head on and not try to run, not try to stay busy, clean the house, overwork, because my second thing is go open my laptop and just work for hours and not think about it.
Yeah.
So these are all process addictions that we'll put in place that look really healthy. Everyone's like, Karis, she never stops. She's
Yeah.
so inspirational. No, I'm not healthy at all in that sense. And so when you're kind of thinking about exercise, you should have no problem with recovery days if your genuine desire is to build muscle, gain strength, and get out of the bath when you're 80.
Mm.
You would want recovery because you want healthy muscles, bones, tendons, ligaments. You don't want to be like training into inflammation and pain and injury risk. So if you're pushing in that direction, then the thing you're getting from exercise is endorphins, which means it's an override, which means it's likely to cause health issues in the future because you're not listening to that feedback. And this is where I like get a bit skeptical with the kind of ultras and the triathlons and like everyone that I know that does that stuff is super motivated, high functioning, usually type A's. Is it healthy? Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of, and they themselves often say this is not healthy. It's about it's kind of some will honestly say it's egoic. I just want to achieve something. I want a PB. I want to smash it. I want to feel good about myself. It's a feat of strength. And it's all admirable, but
Mm.
also it's really good to step back and go, but is it? Like if one injury and you're out, what's the rest of your life?
Mm.
Is that way too much focus and dependency on, and then of course the other aspect of it is body image. If all our exercise is about body image, wow, that's a sad life, like it really is. And I've been there and it does still comes back at times, I'll be like,
Mm.
oh, I can feel I've, overindulged, I should run more. But then, like I said, in your dying days, you're going to regret that most of your life was just trying to run off your the ex, the indulgences.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, with the exercise, I feel, because it definitely
We
has
want just enough.
just enough.
Yeah.
Well, like we're big fans on like minimal effective
Yeah,
dose,
yeah, yeah.
and I think
And you can enjoy it like you do. You really
yeah,
love lifting weights.
and also it's like like you've got to decide where the line is for you. Like, for example, like I occasionally do some pretty loco workouts purely for the challenge, the stimulus of the challenge
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
going, this is meaty
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's gonna feel good when once this is over with. And it's just that little kind of physical and well, massively mental challenge.
Do you know what? Just to like, I think probably what is interesting if you look at it, like, think about our evolution of hunt as hunter-gatherers, we would have had those as part of our
Mm,
securing food. So, or surviving a natural disaster. So, but
yeah,
but the physical bit. So it's I don't I think it is part of the human nature to crave a physical challenge as well as a mental challenge.
yeah,
Whereas now all we have is mental challenges, most of us. So I
yeah.
think what you're saying there is that's quite in within you, and I think like it's quite intuitive, it's quite
Well,
healthy,
it's like
but not
right.
every morning at 5 o'clock, at 5
Yeah,
a.m.
exactly. And it shouldn't be a prerequisite
For
for
45
you
minutes.
for you being able to function that day.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like, that's the kind of thing you used to say. You used to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
like, I have to go for a run today in order for me to show up as Keris
Yeah,
at
yeah.
work, as a partner, as a dog mum, as
Yeah.
a friend. I have to go
Train.
for a run.
Do you remember when, sorry, Hamish was really ill? I skipped outside for 45 minutes
Yeah.
when he had gastritis. Do you remember?
Yeah, no, I do.
Gastroenteritis, sorry, and he was
And
ill. So it's like I've got to skip.
yeah, and it's like, and don't get me wrong, like it's nice to have routine,
Yeah,
structure, a
yeah,
bit of
yeah.
discipline. But at the same time, if it's like, oh, but without this, then I'm awful. I'm a failure. I can't be who I want to be today.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when you start going down like a bit of a slippery slope because you've got to be able to like adapt.
It's not even
And
those things though. It's also like for me, I would fear like um lack of confidence, fatigue, apathy, low mood. So I wouldn't be able to show up
No, but that's what I mean. Like
as a teacher or as
you
yeah,
had
yeah,
created so much attachment to
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
of this almost like this is the prerequisite to my day
yeah,
for me to kind of like show up how I want to show up,
yeah,
and I think like if you go back to if you think of like like Keris was saying like the tribes, it's like just enough, just enough. Chances are like if they're going to be out in the bush for the day, they're not going to rep out some crazy body weight circuit that absolutely fries their legs. Because should
yeah,
they need to bloody run from a rhino or whatever,
yeah,
and they're like, shit,
yeah.
my legs have had it.
Well, it's train their thing would be train low, perform high, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
and I know that's different, and it's a very extreme example. But if you think about it, it's like we've taken it to another level because we have the opportunity to do so. Don't get me wrong, there are dangers around us, but it's not like at any given moment we could be jumped by a lion or something. Like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, but I remember when I used to train. I used to train in like a bit of a spit and sawdust gym in Woolwich. And this was back in my kind of old school bodybuilding days. And I remember, I think I've said this story before. I remember finishing a leg day and my legs were battered. When like just walking is a problem.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember like walking across the road and being sat at the bus stop and thinking, if I got jumped now, I'd be fucked. There's no way I could run from danger right now. My legs would give way on me.
yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
was just a really bizarre feeling, a realization to think like I've literally just hammered my body so much in the gym that I'm now vulnerable. I'm like an injured I'm like an injured animal,
You'll be
just
eaten alive.
easy prey, easy
The thing
pickings.
is out here in Portugal, there's that many bloody dogs roaming around that actually that's what I'm doing. I'm conserving my energy now.
Yeah, just in
No,
case.
I did have a chat the other day with a friend. We were talking about exercise and we're having chats about all the things you can do here, like Pilates and stuff. And I said, to be honest, I've got to a place with it now where like I walk every day with the dog and that's just a given. And I really do quite like gardening and doing a bit of physical like stuff, with you. Like, oh, we've got a day where we've got to clear out this. I actually genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah, I do.
And as in, I just enjoy movement and I'll often listen to podcasts and things as I'm doing anything that's a bit menial. And it's just a really rewarding experience for me, especially if we're working on a house or garden where we get like stand back and go, wow, we did that. But outside of that, like structured exercise, I'm trying to read each day. So it's like get up, like I had a run plan yesterday and I woke up and I was like, there's no way, but the walk still happens. So it's
Yeah,
like I just like you do your plan A, B, C, D that you often ABC, sorry. Like you scale. So you scale based
we
on
do. Maybe it's
yeah,
C.
Z.
With the really bad days, we
I'm
need
just
a
like Z, Z,
plan
Z, Z,
Z.
Z, Z, Z. But for me, it's like uh, I I enjoy it? It gets me outside and gets me in nature, and I can get out of the bath when I'm 80. They're my three kind of things that are really important. So it tends to be hiking, a very light run. There's no Strava, there's no mileage, there's no goal anymore. The light runs are just about like sometimes for time, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I quite fancy like a little bit of a jog with Hamish and try to like, sometimes I'll have 90s dance music on, so that's really nice. I tend to go through all my like it's an elevation session where you're just going back through all your favorite memories of 90s or whatever, like dancing and stuff, or I'll just be like taking in amazing views. And then the kettlebell stuff that I do with you, so I like come to your sessions, and I've said to the clients like once or twice a week. And if you get the foundation in place, but then you're quite active elsewhere, carrying your shopping bags, like trying to find reasons to move rather than not to move across your day. So I think one of the things is we're so sedentary and then we've said this before, we live in a human zoo and we drive to the gym and then we get on a machine and then it's like, get to the supermarket, where's the nearest space? Like, do the opposite of all those things. And you don't have to go to the gym as much if you don't like it. And for me, I've been like, no, I've done my stints, I've done all my competitive stuff, I've learned new skills and I loved it for a while. But right now, I think if I'm really honest, there's a load of other things I haven't done
Mm.
that I do want to explore. And here I've, had to go at everything from ceramics to singing classes to art classes, different styles of yin yoga, meditation, and not doing, again, the why on all of it's really important. Don't do any of those things. At first, I joined them all because I was like, maybe this can help get rid of my stomach issues. maybe this can help relieve my anxiety.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to relieve the anxiety. And at the end of the day, with like we said, the awareness piece, the destimulation, and
Mm.
finding some tools to change the story, the language, the labels that are going on in your head. But these things are great, like creative stuff for essentially kind of gaining insights into you. Like there's elements to which, emotional stuff comes up. It's self-esteem. It's like,
Mm.
letting go of ego. So going to a class and being shit at something is really
Yeah.
good for ego. Like, and not trying to achieve outcomes all the time. Go back to your child self who just enjoyed
Mm.
doing, creative things, using imagination, chatting, not overanalyzing and trying to be the best. Like that's, like I said, that kind of high functioning adult in you, like
Yeah.
put that to bed at times.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I've got to with all of it, the exercise, the kind of healthy stuff. It's just always revisit your why when you're doing it. And if you're like, yeah, I'm doing this because I ate two pizzas, Matt, on Sunday.
You piece of shaming me.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I'm a beast.
What we'd
And
ideally do is
beast
why
needs
why
feeding
why did you need the second pizza is a question you then ask yourself. I know,
because
and you're different. You're like not like the rest of us.
one pizza was for my bottom half and the second one was for my top half.
Right, okay. But you're not like that. What I'm saying is if anyone out there is like, why do I say I'm going to eat healthy and then I overindulge, I go back for seconds or eat too much or go and secret eat or binge, like it's kind of
Yeah.
there's a why behind all of it that we want to visit. But then also when we look at the exercise and
Mm.
healthy things we do, if it's constantly just fighting against that tidal wave of self-sabotage,
Yeah.
it's never going to work. And we have to go back to that kind of root cause stuff. And
100%. And I think like, as we wrap up now, like the one thing I really want you to take from this is like to become more conscious and create awareness around the narrative that
yeah,
you use day to day, the language that you use to describe yourself, to describe situations, decisions that you've made, and start correcting it because it's
reread
really powerful.
rewrite it, become the director of the show, the author of the book.
Exactly. Like,
Mm.
and that I love that because one of my mentors actually, he's big on this. He's like, you have the power to rewrite your story at any point.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you could
From a victim to a hero.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. When you think about it, it's like it's absolutely spot on. Yeah, you can. And most situations can be massively reframed. Don't get me wrong, life can be bloody shit at times, and it just is. Like heaven forbid you lose a loved one. Like there's no there's no way of rewriting that or reframing it, but it just is. However, you can have a bit more control about how you respond to this, and that doesn't involve avoiding feeling it and sitting with it and all of that. But I think, yeah, like
Also,
most
just on that note, many of these things are going to be inevitable. We are going to experience grief, loss,
100%.
hard times, natural disasters, all sorts of things. Inventing it in our head and fearing it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Building up a skill set to be able to cope with whatever life brings our way, and then just surrendering to the process is essentially what most indigenous tribes would have done without this news and information and
Yeah.
phones and stuff like they just were like, we know. And your better focus, actually, I had a chat with a friend about this yesterday. Your better focus is building a village, like
Mm.
because we've stopped doing that because of technology and
Yeah.
geography and
And I
um
must say that's been something that's, one of the many things we are grateful for here is it does feel more villagey
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and kind of like community focused,
yeah,
and that's to do with like where it is, the layout of the place. It's very small as well, but it's nice. Like you tend to, like, 9 times out of 10 every day you'll bump into someone
yeah, yeah,
here, but it's nice, whether it's at the supermarket, it's at the gym, or what I mean, just literally out and about, and
yeah.
you're like, oh, bloody hell, good to see you. You just have a little catch up.
But
Whereas,
everyone is equal in the village in that
yeah.
everyone helps you as well. It's not just you helping everybody else in the village. So
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah,
don't
but
take on that role.
we are gonna say tutty bye. I hope you enjoyed that, folks. And as always, if you can just come away with one or two things, it's a win. Happy days. But please do reach out if you've got any questions at all, anything you'd like us to cover or know a little bit more about. You're probably spotting a trend here. Like we spend a lot of time talking about like mindset now, don't we? And because it's bloody important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's literally it's the foundation of everything that we do. And the more we can get on top of it and the more we can allow ourselves to, you know, invest time in getting to the bottom of things and the whys behind what we do and what we don't do, what we avoid, the better. So yeah.
All good.
Yeah. All good. I don't think Kara was sure I was finished. She was like, is he done?
It's
Is he
good.
done? Anyway, big love, guys. Catch you in the next
Bye
one.
bye.
See ya.